Religious in tone. I tell you what, ntate Tsepo Tshola, whoa, that song made famous by him. This evening, we remember the village pope, ntate Tsepo Tshola, who was one of South Africa's legendary musicians. Originally from the neighbouring Mountain Kingdom, Lesotho, Tshola made quite the mark in the South African music scene and will forever be one of our most loved musicians. The 68-year-old succumbed to COVID-19 last week, and to pay tribute to this legend, we're joined by veteran musician and actress Marah Louw, the drums maestro, of course, and jazz artist. He's no stranger, ntate Sipho Hotstix Mabuse. And before we get into the conversation, I'd really like for the team to play that back again. What a moment to behold indeed from the memorial service.
Waiting for your name to be called, your body shaking with disbelief, 'cause you never ever let go of it. You waiting for your name to be called. The body shaking with disbelief.
I tell you what, Mama Marah, as I come to you after just listening to that rendition, religious in tone, ntate Tsepo Tshola, some have described him as that. Tonight, we're reflecting on this life. You're waiting for your name to be called. Your body is shaking with disbelief. South Africans are familiar with this song. Talk to us then about your reflections on this life well lived. Mama Marah?
Where do I begin to tell? Can you hear me?
I can. Please continue. Belt out that tune.
Where do I begin to tell the story of how great Tsepo Tshola has been? The sweet love story. Wow, I don't know how to carry on, but Tsepo Tshola, I met Tsepo in the early 1980s. I was one of the privileged artists that were invited by Marah Louw to come to Botswana for a recording that he was doing. And he wanted certain voices to be part of this recording. And when I got a call from Marah Louw and I arrived in Botswana, in Gaborone, and we went to that studio that was in the bush. It was called, I think it was called Techno Bush or Studio in the Bush. And there was Tsepo's voice is one that no one can ever. You know, there are certain voices you can copy the style and mimic and try to sound like this person. But Tsepo Tshola is one in a million voices that I've ever heard that is so unique and so genuine. I don't think he wakes up in the morning to practice and do vocal warm-ups to practice how to hold a note, and it just comes naturally. He had a genuine God-given gift of singing from the heart. And every time when I could hear Tsepo, I've got all Tsepo's LPs and CDs, and I play them over and over and over and over and over again in my car. And I can never get over Tsepo, but one of the most amazing things, which was a privilege for me, was the friendship that we developed, me and Tsepo. Whenever I had an event that I needed his assistance, especially in my church, the Methodist church, when I'm trying to raise funds. I remember a couple of years ago, not too long ago, I asked him, I said, Tsepo, I'm raising funds for my church. We've got a convention and I need you to come and assist me. Would you come? He says, give all your soul. I said, yes, we will make a plan and get you. He says, how come Fuman and I fell at B&B? And I was like, wow. He came, he drove all the way, and the concert was a great success. But Tsepo came to my house. This is one of the fondest memories that I've got. He came to my house. He never used to announce himself. You know, in the suburbs, people had to call. They have to call you and arrange to see you tonight or yesterday or tomorrow. But Tsepo just rock up and at the gate, the security would phone and says, Tsepo Tshola mona wa mo tseba mme ka re mo buleleng a kene. He would come into my home and would cook up a storm. I have a couple of occasions when once he came with Marah Louw, and I keep mentioning Marah Louw because my attachment with Tsepo was attached to Marah Louw. And we had a very special union of friendship. Whenever they felt like Marah is going to cook, because if they didn't go to Mama Makeba's house, then they'd come to my house. And we'd cook up a storm and have a great time until early hours of the morning. And I still can't believe what this COVID-19 is doing to our nations, to our people, how we can lose people. Tsepo has still got a long way to go to be one of the greatest artists. He's already a great artist, but he still has so much to give and so much to encourage and teach and nurture the younger generation. But I'm starting to run out of words because I've got all these pictures of me and him in separate parts. I remember doing a concert with him and Brad Kefas and Letta in Lesotho when he was still with Uhuru, when Letta and them were coming to perform. Myself and Abigail were part of that group of artists who were invited to participate. So for me, losing Tsepo so suddenly and so unexpectedly, it's heartbreaking. But what can I say? Hulukile. Hulukile. Modiba ha be ning ithathe ya hao. Hulukile. Tsepo robala ka khotso. It hurts me. I just run out of words. I ask for God's divine intervention. Please stop it now. We've seen, we've heard, we ask for forgiveness. If we've sinned and you cannot take us anymore, forgive us, Almighty God. Forgive us. We can't handle watching our families, friends, and people that we love, neighbors, just passing away. Just like that. I plead and I pray upon my knees, Lord, forgive us. Lord, forgive us.
And I'm going to give you a moment. And I'm going to give you a moment, Mama Marah, just to compose yourself. I know it's difficult, and my condolences. As we speak tonight, I know how difficult it is. And another person who it's been very difficult, and visibly so, even at the memorial service he was battling. Ntate Mabuse, I know for you, this relationship goes a long way back. And when you think about Ntate Tsepo, for you, this is someone who broke the news of a colleague's passing, Ntate Selbintuli, years ago. And just to show how far you've come with Ntate Tsepo.
Yeah, I can feel Marah, and I know what she's going through, and it's been a very difficult moment for many of us, for all of us, especially those who have lived and known Tsepo for many years. My relationship with Tsepo is very historic because we started around the same time. If not, maybe they came probably 2 or 3 years after the Beaters were formed. But we had hosted Uhuru in South Africa when they came to Bralaki's place. And the night before they had to start their concert, we had together at Bralaki's place. And the following day we were supposed to meet. I had taken Selby home, and I then went to Bralaki's house where we were supposed to meet again with Selby. And lo and behold, there were some women who were, crying bitterly and wailing outside. And Tsepo came to me and said, "Hey, man, Caesar, what's working? What definitely and they're saying that Serbia has passed on." So basically what I'm saying is that they comforted me. Uhuru were the first people to comfort me. They were the first people to know that Selby had died, and we all drove to Selby's home to verify whether it was true, because we had parted the night before. So it would not have been possible for us to believe that Selby had died overnight. So it was myself, Frank, Black Jesus, Moses, and Muchuku. We drove to Selby's home. So that's how our relationship began as colleagues. And eventually Tsepo and I became very, very close. Even when they were banned, from South Africa, I went to watch their last concert in Vereniging, where the police came in and told them to pack off. They cannot perform anymore. They must leave the country immediately. So that relationship was established many, many years, over and over and over. And every festival where I performed, Tsepo had been. And, we became friends and very, very close. And I'm definitely going to miss his character. Very pleasant first human being, always laughing and say, "Hey, la Siza." He used to call me that, and I would call him Ola Tiza. So we had a great relationship together. And I can only say, Thursday for me was the turning point where I was able to say, "Farewell, my friend. You can go well. You've done everything you were meant to do on earth." As you always sang, "Hulukile, Hulukile." That was the song that he had composed for his beloved wife. And again, I was privileged to have been on his side when this happened. So Tsepo remains in the hearts and many homes of South Africans and across the continent forever.
And I'm going to ask us just to pause there for now. We go for an ad break, and when we come back, we really delve deeper into this life of a man that the Caiaphas described as his life story is not one that can be told in a matter of minutes, but deserves a book. Let's continue then with this conversation in just a moment. And we continue then to remember the life of Ntate Tsepo Tshola. Ntate Mabuse, if I can come to you again, one of the things that, has been said about Ntate Tsepo Tshola is that he may have been famous, but he was not a celebrity and did not behave as such. How do we then begin to mourn his, this loss of such a magnitude in a manner that befits him?
Well, I wouldn't like us to mourn Tsepo. I'd really like us to celebrate him. As you rightly say, Tsepo was never a celebrity. Perhaps then we need to begin to realize that he was, and we need to celebrate him. I don't want us to feel mournful, because if we mourn him, it means that we will never be able to hear of him ever again. We will always be hearing Tsepo's music. And that means he's left us something to remember him for, and to celebrate his life as best as we can. And for me, it's now or never, as he always sang. And we should always remember Tsepo for the great music that he did, along with his friends. Tsepo belonged to a generation of musicians who were resilient, and musicians who would always be remembered after they're long gone. So I think it's very important for South Africans to begin to celebrate Tsepo rather than believe that we should mourn him.
And Mama Marah, his passing comes at a time when the industry, some creatives are really battling under the COVID-19, and even just calling for some more support. At a time like this, I mean, it's one of those moments that you would have been able to gather and pay a befitting tribute to him, but sadly, given the protocols, it can't be done.
It was so sad the other day, ever since this COVID, came into the world and into this country, I have not been able to attend funerals. I have been so diligent in following the lockdown regulations, especially funerals, when I'm told that, hey, funerals is like the epicenter. If you want to catch this thing, you must go there. But I was very saddened that I couldn't even go to the memorial service, which was a couple of days ago at the Civic Theatre. And but again, you know, in my heart, I know that the family, I spoke to some of them. I spoke to Mpho, the daughter of Mema Lisa, who's very closely related. And I expressed my feelings because she called me first thing in the morning, and she was in tears, saying, Yela, and I said, what do you mean? He says, Tsepo. I said, Wile guy. And she told me, and I stopped what I was doing, and I couldn't stop crying. Now, I know I'm a crybaby. My tears are like right close to my eye. And it's very sad that even now, the thought of saying, you know, can we go and just lay him to rest and be part of the ceremony? But I don't see the point of doing that because it's scary. You know, this COVID-19 hasn't got a face. You don't know the person standing next to you. You don't know if I've got it or the person next to you has got it. So it has become like an evil little thing where you can't even go and pay your last respect to people that you dearly loved. But to cut my long story short, Tsepo Tshola meant a lot to me. And I'm going to be very short. In 2019, Tsepo Tshola and I were talking on the phone. And I said, Tsepo, you know, for many years, I've been trying to find someone to help me with songs. I was gifted with a voice, but I've never been gifted with writing music. And all those people who promised, yeah, I'm going to record you. I mean, some promised me on my birthday, some promised me on my book launch. Yeah, we're going to go into the studio and I've got beautiful songs for you, but it never came to pass. And Tsepo committed himself and said, Ausi, he used to call me Ausi. He said, Ausi, I'd like us to start to get together and work out. And there was a couple of songs, there's 2 songs that Rayu wrote a few years ago, which has never been recorded. And Tsepo has had that recording, and Rayu wanted us to do this song with Tsepo. And Tsepo says, we've got to do this song. This was after Rayu passed on. And I was looking forward to that. Then came COVID-19. And for me, the devastation is more for me because when someone commits to say we have to do this, and I said, Tsepo, I don't mind to drive to Maseru, practice, rehearse the song, and then we will find a way of finding financial assistance to do this. Even if it's just 2-3 songs, doesn't have to be a whole album. Because Tsepo's voice was so captivating. You know, I love people who sing naturally. It captivated me. In my car, I've got Tsepo's music, Rayu's music playing over and over and over. And for me, Tsepo's rendition of Mbube, for me, it is the best rendition of Mbube, which features also my favorite big brother, Rayu. That Mbube makes me dance while I'm driving, and there are people who watch me driving and they see me hitting the speed. I'm now waffling along because I'm just trying to find ways of how I'm going to miss Tsepo. But I'd like to remember his kindness, his naturalness, and I want to repeat what Sipho said. Tsepo was not one of those artists who portray themselves big celebrities. He was as natural, down to earth. He had a good spirit. He was everybody, whether umang kapa mang, respected anybody, everybody. And I'm going to miss that about Tsepo. And to the family,
And Ntate Mabuse, when we talk about him at a time like this, you know, I remember listening to a conversation, someone saying that his song, Stop the War, would have come into mind at a time like this during these recent unrests that we have seen in the country? But also for you, at the same time, this may feel like yet another loss, because I remember the last time we spoke, you were really still reflecting on the life of Mama Miriam, on the life of Bra Hugh, and now here you are, you've lost someone who was also close to Bra Hugh. It may really feel like it's that time where you're just going through once again the loss of Bra Hugh and everyone else that has come before them.
You know, I consider this period a season of sadness. It's a season of death where many musicians in particular are just succumbing to some kind of illness, and others are passing on because of COVID-19. And recently we had to go and bury Steve Kekana. And also there was Pat Shange. I don't know. It would seem for me that I'm always having to bid farewell for the departed. And I'm always having to speak about my departed colleagues. I don't know. Like Marah was saying, you know, perhaps it's time that we went down on our knees and pleaded for mercy, for clemency, for whatever sins we may have committed. But you know, one of the things that I don't want to be fearful of death. I always want to be hopeful that I can live beyond what this happens. If it happens at a certain time, it's God's will. You know, we can't always be living in fear because we feel that it's COVID time and we may be infected by so and so and so and so. If we have to bid farewell to our friends, God will guide us through that. And we just have to live through and be, you know, be in their presence, that we celebrate them and wish them and bid them farewell in a way that we understand how. And for me, Tsepo is that very special person that I always believe that if I had to go to Lesotho to say farewell, I would go. But unfortunately, then we are also, you know, we have these challenges that we might probably not be able to bid him farewell in the way that we know how.
All right. To you both, condolences. I know how difficult of a time this is. And thank you so much for taking the time to speak to us. And for the viewers who do not know, I've now learned that you and Mama Marah shared the same class and you were classmates. So I'll be visiting you soon, Mama Marah, to get some secrets and some behind-the-scenes stories. Ka ntate Mabuse. So I'll be doing so very soon. And Ntate Mabuse, I'm also going to visit you to get some secrets then, Mama Marah. Thank you so much. Thank you so much to you both. I certainly do appreciate your time. That was Ntate Sipho Hotstix Mabuse and also Mama Marah Louw. And we're reflecting really on the life of Ntate Tsepo Tshola.